Just a few days ago, we were discussing Ukraine's bold incursion into Russia, and at that point I said there were two ways it could go right. One way it could go badly wrong. Early indications are that it might well be the latter. So let's discuss. To refresh your memory, Ukraine surprised its allies and its enemy alike when it had some of its most battle-hardened troops pushing across the border into Russian territory, where they met little resistance and made rapid progress. There was speculation that this could at least partly change the equation between the two combatants, to change the narrative. There was speculation that it might force Russia to quickly redeploy people from the front line, which would help Ukraine to hold its ground there better. What I said previously was that those were possible bonuses, but there was one way it could go badly wrong, which was if Russia resisted the urge to redeploy its troops from the Donbass to Kursk. If Putin was able to withstand the reputational hit and the blow to his and Russia's pride, then he might be able to see that Ukraine would have depleted its troops somewhat from the existing front line, and now would be the time to throw everything at it to make more rapid progress. Nobody would much doubt that Russia would be able to expel Ukrainians from its own territory once it became a priority. But the question was, where was Putin's priority? Bold moves like invading Russian territory get hailed as strokes of genius after the event if they work, and they get called strategic blunders after the event if they fail. It's all good 2020 hindsight. Now, there are times when strokes of genius only made it because people held their nerve in the face of initial setbacks. It's very tempting to always be jumping to early conclusions, and right now plenty of people are reportedly losing their nerve, with Ukrainian President Zelensky facing a barrage of criticism from soldiers, from military analysts and other Ukrainian politicians. The criticism is prompted by the fact that, yes, Putin has kept his focus on the Donbass and has given the incursion at Kursk relatively low priority, and the Russian army has accordingly been making more rapid advances. The backlash against Kiev came following a breach in the front line in Donetsk region, with forces closing in on the town of Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is one of the most strategically important rail and road junctions in the region. Its fall would have a significant impact on the logistics for Ukraine's military there. Russia had been making gradual, painful progress in its direction in any case. Many people have concluded it was inevitable that sooner or later it was eventually going to be taken, but now the dynamics have shifted notably. Satellite photos suggest that Russian forces are just 8 kilometers from Pokrovsk, which is in the process of evacuating local residents. Alexander Kovalenko from the Information Resistance Group wrote on Telegram that the situation at Pokrovsk represented a complete defensive failure, adding that the failure was owned by the leadership, not by people on the ground. Mariana Bezula, a member of the Defence Committee in Parliament, posted critically on Facebook, saying that she saw practically no Ukrainian army on her visit to the area, and that personnel rotations had been carried out in ways that had led to Russian breakthroughs and Ukrainian deaths. The Financial Times reported that Zelensky, at a press conference in Kiev on Tuesday this week, had said that the situation near Pokrovsk was extremely difficult, but he claimed that the Russian advance had slowed down since Ukraine entered into the Kursk region. But it then pointed to the reports of numerous military analysts saying that actually the exact opposite was true. The Ukrainian group Deep State told the Financial Times that the situation was one of complete chaos. Rob Lee of the Foreign Policy Research Institute went further, telling the FT that the Russian gains were directly attributable to Ukraine's diversion of resources to the Kursk offensive. And he said this: some of the more experienced brigades have now been replaced by newer, less experienced units. It's not just people being sent to Kursk, of course, but also ammunition and equipment, which, as we all know, was already in short supply on the front line. None of this is made easier by the recent barrage of airstrikes against Ukraine in recent days, with hundreds of Russian drones and missiles looking to destroy energy and other infrastructure and to keep Ukrainian morale as low as possible. And there is also some evidence that Russia is slowly now beginning to ramp up the Kursk response, deploying attack helicopters and around 30,000 troops, albeit not of the battle-hardened pedigree, and increasing artillery strikes against the Kursk invaders. The thing that plays against Zelensky and Ukraine in this situation is the fact that the territory of Russia that they're now holding isn't really that tactically important or valuable in itself, which puts it into the category of being mostly symbolic, and hence why it's been easy for Putin to shrug it off and refuse to be diverted from the gains that he has set for Russia's summer offensive. Various commenters and political figures have described the Kursk offensive as devastating for Putin, a bold move that changed the narrative of the war, like Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström, who told the Financial Times, "It shows to the Russian population and it shows to the world that the Russian war machine is hollow. It hasn't been able to protect its border." And that rationale has led others to the view that Putin's regime is, quote, on the verge of collapse. Well, while it does have plenty of problems to overcome, I've not seen anything to lead me to think that's anything at this stage other than wishful thinking. We shall see. In the meantime, it's worth noting that Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that he will carry out an official visit to Mongolia on September the 3rd. So what, you might say? Well, the point of interest for that is that this will be Putin's first visit to a country that is a signatory to the Rome Statute, meaning that they're committed to the findings of the International Criminal Court. You may recall that the ICC put out an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin in March last year. Now, in theory, that means Moldova is obligated to enforce the arrest warrant on Putin when he enters their territory. I'm guessing he wouldn't be going if he hadn't had assurances that that was never going to happen, which is more chipping away at the authority of the ICC, if any more were needed, and by extension chipping away at the whole idea of a rules-based world order, in the face of which Russia's actions are an aberration, rather than the announcement of a new era of might makes right power politics. These are all serious indicators, just not of anything radically changing in the short term. Probably.